for Abu Napan for the Mu'mineen. Whenever there's a mega project that's being launched, there is a series of meetings that have to take place so that the purpose, the objective, the aim of this project is clearly defined. These things have to be crystallized such that there's no confusion. What we're about to embark on, my dear brothers and sisters, isn't just a mega project. It is, in fact, one of God's greatest mega projects. When you examine the saga of Imam al-Hussain, it doesn't require a rocket scientist to recognize from the very outset that this is big. So, as the mega project that this is, we need to crystallize why we're here. And what brings us together is that this year we subscribe to a religious tradition of faith that assigns value, listen carefully, it assigns value not to the quantity of our contributions, but our capacity to contribute. In other words, we have a beautiful tradition by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam who says that frogs should never be hurt. You should never kill a frog. And then you might be thinking to yourself, what's so special about frogs? Because frogs were among the species of animals that asked God for permission to try and extinguish the fire that was set to burn Ibrahim alayhi salam. So what the frogs did is that they filled their mouths with water and they approached the fire as much as they could, to the extent that they burnt. And this is from Imam Sadiq, and this is from in Tafsir al-Kumbi alayhim. He said that the frogs, they had to get as close to the fire as possible. But there are physical limitations. They can't spit out the water too far. So they burnt, suffers as a result of this heroic act. Now, what does that tell you? How much water can a frog's mouth hold? What can a frog do with respect to the most biggest, deadly, man-made fire ever devised? Not much. But it's not about what you can do. It's not about what you actually bring to the table, but the purity of your intention and your capacity. If your capacity is to simply wear black during Muharram and Safar, Allah will reward you for that. If your capacity as a woman is to wear your abaya in honor of Lady Zainab, Allah will reward you for that. If your capacity is to do greater things, Allah will reward you for that accordingly. But ultimately, it's about the purity of your intention. As the hadith says, that the intention of a believer is better than his actions. Now, there is a lot that has been an explanation to this hadith of why is the intention better than the action. So, because an action is a manifestation of your intention. So why is the intention better than the action? There are many reasons for that. At the level of the intention, it's extremely pure, but when it manifests itself into an action, it kind of gets tainted, right? So because our religion, once again, one of the most important attributes of the faith is that Allah set a purpose for our lives. Now, what is that purpose? You could say it is to worship Allah. You could say it is to achieve His pleasure. You could say it is to enter paradise, whatever it is. All of these discussions we'll look at. But instead of Allah, out of His mercy and compassion, didn't just send us a textbook and says, here are the instruction manuals, and here are the steps you need to follow. Now go and achieve your full potential. That would have been extremely difficult. So you have the Holy Quran. It is God's divine textbook that's supposed to be His eternal message to humanity, and yet look at the chaos. Look at the mayhem. Look at the deviation. Look at the confusion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just do that. Rather, He sent the text and He linked that text to specific individuals and said that in order for you to to apply this message and understand it, you need to follow these individuals. Every single day, I'll just give you one proof. Every single day, if as part of your salat, you are required to recite Surah al-Fatiha al-Kitab in the first 2 cycles of every single prayer. So Surah al-Fatiha, we've all memorized it before. But there's just one verse, maybe you've thought about this before, but I just need you to take a look at this verse again and tell me what it means. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a prayer. What's the prayer? Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. So far so good. Now what's the straight path? The path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll say obviously. Well, where is this path? The path of the Quran, the path of divine values. Well, the path that leads me to Allah. But it's easy enough to say like that. But how do I find this path? Allah explains in literally the next verse. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Hang on a minute.
माशाअल्लाह माशाअल्लाह बेटा
Sulawat. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Hang on a second. We're asking Allah to ultimately for eternal bliss, and we're asking Him for His pleasure. But instead of Allah giving us a list of values, you could have said the path of righteousness, the path of the truth, the path of charity, the path of prayer and worship, the path of all of these good deeds. Instead, Allah sums it all up and says, the path of those that you have blessed. Immediately connecting us to individuals, not to actions, not to values. Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim. Then another distinction is made. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Not the one upon whom your wrath was sent, not the one who are misguided or deviated. My focus is on the initial statement. Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim. The path of those that you have blessed. Now who are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have blessed? Who are the ones that the path to Allah is connected, such that God teaches us to pray, that we're guided towards that path? And again, another secret verse for you to think of. Ya ayyuhallazina attaqullah. Oh, you that have believed, fear Allah. Guard yourselves against acts of sins and things that would enrage Allah. Ittaqullah, have taqwa, have piety. وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And be with the truthful ones. Instead, here's a question. Why doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of saying be with the truthful ones, as I said, why doesn't He simply say be truthful? What's important here? To be truthful or to be with someone else who's truthful? Obviously, being truthful should be the ultimate objective, right? But Allah doesn't say that. Because you would think that you are truthful when you're not. You might actually believe that you're being truthful and that you're good and that you're righteous. In fact, there's an experiment, you can look it up on YouTube, where they interview random people on the street and they say, are you a good person? 100% of those who are interviewed says, yeah, I think I'm a good person. So everybody thinks they're good. Everybody thinks they're righteous. But you know when you can identify that? Is when they're in conflict with others. When they have a fight with other people. They immediately entrench themselves and say, I'm right, he's wrong. I'm good, she's bad. So everybody thinks they're truthful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us a measuring stick. And He says this is how you gauge whether you're truthful or not. وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Be with the ones who never lied. Be with the ones who never sinned. Be with those who are pure, those who are infallible, those even their enemies could never pick a fault. Even their most sworn and ardent haters could never come up with anything that would blemish their record. Be with the likes of Fatima and Hussain and Hussain. Be with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So Allah tells you need to be with this group of people. Azia namta alayhim, with the Sadiqeen. With the ones that God has provided adjectives and descriptions in the Holy Quran. He might have not named them specifically, but thanks to. They're the ones Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to follow and to connect with. Or else the text, the book of guidance becomes our curse. It becomes a means of deviation. Without the ones who interpret the Quran, without the self-spoken Quran. As Amir al-Mu'mineen said, that this is the silent Quran. I am the vocal Quran. I am the Quran in action. I am the Quran applied in physical reality. So you follow them. Brothers and sisters, Imam Hussain represents our very identity. Imam Hussain is not just a flag that we just wave around once a year. He's at the very core of who we are, because most of individuals, they identify themselves by their ethnicity, right? Like, I'm an Arab, you're a Persian, I'm this, you're that. Or they identify themselves by their nationality. I'm an American, you're Canadian, you're British, right? Identity politics, that's how it works. These things are virtual, they're not real. We've created them out of thin air, but ultimately none of these things hold any value in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because either we were created being white or black or brown, and we made no conscious choice whether of these decisions. How could I feel that I'm superior to you for something that I never chose for myself, and something that you never chose for yourself? How do we identify ourselves, brothers and sisters? You know how to do that? Let's learn from Amr ibn al-Junada, one of the youngest soldiers in the camp of Imam Hussain. This for his father, who had already died on the plains. He comes to Imam al-Hussain. You've all heard the story. He says that this young boy who brought him here, what's he actually trying to do? Is he actually trying to fight when his father was just killed? He was but an orphan. Then he says that, Ya Abdullah, it was my mother who sent me. Don't think that I came on my own accord. My mother sent me to fight so that she could feel honorable on the day of judgment, looking into the glorious face of Fatima Zahra, saying, I sacrificed something for your son. I gave my son for yours. So the Imam cries, he grants him permission into the battlefield, and he identifies himself with the only parameter, brothers and sisters, that is actually worthwhile. What does he say? Amiri Hussaini wa ni'mal Amir. My master is Hussain, never mind who I am. My name, my ethnicity, my language, all of these things are irrelevant. What is actually worth it is who my master is. Amiri Hussaini wa ni'mal Amir. So Hussain is everything to us. He's our lives. He's our dunya. He's our akhirah. Imam Hussain is everything to us. Again, this doesn't mean that Imam Hussain is just a banner. There is more to Imam Hussain than that. Imam Hussain is a school. Imam Hussain is a university. Imam Hussain is a full way of life that we're supposed to subscribe to and emulate and imitate. It is not enough that we just simply wear black, brothers and sisters, as valuable as that is, but that's like when a schoolboy goes to school and he says, look at my uniform, look how ironed it is. And then the teacher turns around and says, well, that's wonderful, young man, but why didn't you study for the exam? Why don't you follow the school rules? Why don't you show up on time? So your wearing black, brothers and sisters, is valuable, but what it means is that you have enrolled in this school. And you have enrolled in this school, may Allah bless you abundantly for that. And you will be blessed, and you will be guided, and you will be rewarded. But that's only the first step. So that's why I said we need to purify and refine our intentions. We're not just here to hear the name of Imam Hussain, as valuable as that is, but to make that commitment to follow in his footsteps. And we all cry out, Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain, Salawat.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah.